Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Over in Shrek Academy's area, Dai Huabing, Cao Jinxian, and the rest had ugly expressions on their faces as they left. The strength of their opponents was beyond their expectations, particularly Yu Qianlong. The strength he had displayed was comparable to Wang Qiu'er. Coupled with Xingyang, who was also a six-ringed Soul Emperor, they were facing an uphill battle in the semifinals. The Tang sect also returned to the hotel. There was still some time until the afternoon rounds. It was extremely important for them to get some rest and strategize. They decided to have an early lunch. Bei Bei gathered his teammates. Everyone saw the rounds in the morning. What do you think? Bei Bei asked as he sat at the head of their table. Shu Sanxia replied quickly, the Heavenly Dragon sect is no pushover. I think Yu Qianlong's Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Martial Soul is more powerful than yours. Even if we went against them one-on-one, it would not be easy to win. Bei Bei nodded and said, Yu Qianlong has inherited the pure-blooded Blue Lightning Thunder Dragon bloodline. There was no deviation or evolution, it was definitely pure. 10,000 years ago, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon was one of top 6 martial souls on the continent. This is not an easy opponent. Furthermore, the Heavenly Dragon sect also has other powerful contenders. Their martial souls are all draconic and hence, they will not be weak. It'll be a difficult fight for Shrek in the next round. They may not be able to defeat them with just the power of Wang Qiu'er. Anyone else? What other thoughts do you have on your minds? Surprisingly, Nan Qiuqiu, who had just joined the Tang sect and appeared very demure, opened her mouth to speak. I think one's mindset in this competition is important, too. When Wu Yifan faced Yu Qianlong, he was not weak. However, he was under immense psychological pressure from his opponent. This shows that he had a very weak mentality. He should at least have been able to give Yu Qianlong some trouble, instead of losing so badly in the end. Bei Bei smiled and nodded. He said, Qiuqiu is right. One's mentality is important too. On this point, we have to admit that Wang Qiu'er does this better than any of us here. Honestly speaking, I've been waiting for the day when Wang Qiu'er would go up against someone like Yu Qianlong. I wonder what kind of match that'll be. Do you know, Yu Hao? Hui Yu Hao sighed and said, Elder brother, brothers and sisters, while I don't want to undermine everyone's confidence, there's something I feel that I must say. We are in trouble. When everyone heard that, they were all shocked, including Bei Bei. They had no idea what Hui Yu Hao was talking about. Bei Bei nodded and said, tell us, no matter what the problem is, we have to face it together. You requested this meeting. It's not too late to come up with a counter-strategy. Hui Yu Hao said, after the morning rounds, there are 2 judgments we can make. The Radiant City Soul Engineering Academy and the Proud Sword Sect do not contain hidden body sect members. When they heard this analysis, they instantly understood what he meant. Instantly, their faces changed. Hui Yu Hao continued, I carefully observed the Heavenly Dragon sect. When Yu Qianlong went to fight, everyone on their team, regardless of whether they were on the main team or the reserves, all looked at him in admiration. This cannot be faked. Hence, we know the importance of Yu Qianlong to the Heavenly Dragon sect. Furthermore, Yu Qianlong's Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Martial Soul is not a body soul. This means that the most powerful contender from the Heavenly Dragon sect has no link to the body sect. Hence, we can deduce that the body sect is not likely to be hidden there. Earlier, we analyzed the few teams that the body sect may have been hidden in. Now, we can deduce that the only possibilities are the Star Luo National Academy and the Snow Demon sect. For the Star Luo National Academy, I've deduced that the possibility of them collaborating with the body sect is almost negligible. On the other hand, the Snow Demon sect, which comes from the Heavenly Soul Empire, is much more likely to be in cahoots with the body sect. Today, I also noticed that at least 6 of their reserve members did not show much of a reaction when Yu Qianlong came up. In other words, they were not surprised at his strength. What does this mean? I'm afraid that we've gotten the short end of the stick this time. At this point, everyone knew what he meant. The room turned silent instantly. To describe their situation as the short end of the stick was an understatement. What did it mean to meet the body sect? They were powerful enough to resist Shrek Academy. They also dared to attack the illustrious Virtue Hall, and inflicted severe damage on them. No one doubted the advantage of the body sect in terms of their martial souls. By coming to the Sun Moon Empire to compete, they demonstrated how confident they were. Shrek's 7 monsters had long suspected that the Holy Ghost sect would appear in this competition. This was the plan the Sun Moon Empire had devised to take care of the body sect. Right now, they were about to get caught in it all. Even if they were able to defeat the body sect, there was another more mysterious evil soul master group behind the body sect, the Holy Ghost sect. So far, deaths had followed them wherever they went. If they wanted to break out from this trap, it would be immensely difficult for the Tang sect. Hui Yuhao said in a low voice, "Don't be too demoralized, guys. While our opponents are strong, we aren't weak either. Elder brother can fight once again, and our Tang sect has 3 6-ringed soul emperors. 3 of us have twin martial souls. In this aspect, the body sect can't beat us. The academy can match the body sect, and we now have the title of Shrek's 7 monsters. Are we supposed to fear them?" Shusansha nodded, and a strong will to fight appeared in his eyes. "That's right, Yuhao is right. Fuck the body sect. I'll fuck them all. I'll go first for the individual elimination round." Bei Bei gestured at him to tell him to calm down. "Be quiet. We can find out who the more powerful members of the body sect are beforehand, and prepare against them. Yuhao, tell us what you think, and the strategy you have in mind." Hui Yuhao nodded and said, "The body sect is undoubtedly powerful. It is impossible to beat them one-on-one. Even so, I feel that we should adopt Shrek's strategy. As long as one of us can win 3 individual elimination rounds, we can force them into the group round." The biggest advantage the Tang sect had was from Hui Yuhao's spiritual detection. With it, while the Tang sect did not fight very often in the group round, they had yet to face any true opponents thus far. Furthermore, as Shrek's 7 monsters had known each other for so many years, they all worked well together. Bei Bei said, "Then, who do you think we should send first in the individual elimination round? We're facing the body sect. It's not likely we'll score 3 victories like Wang Chioa." Hui Yuhao spoke up without hesitation, "I'll go first." "You?" Bei Bei was shocked. Wang Donga, who was sitting next to him, glanced at him sharply. Hui Yuhao nodded and said, "There are some advantages to me going first. First, the opponent will not expect me to fight first. Second, I have a body soul too. In comparison, I understand them better than everyone else here. Third, while I'm immobile, I have many tricks up my sleeves. I'm confident of at least 1 victory. Recently, my spiritual power has improved as well. Most importantly, it won't affect everyone if I become a bit more drained during the individual elimination round. I direct the group round, and don't fight directly in it. In my current state, I can't fight at the front like everyone else. Spiritual detection will only drain a bit of my spiritual power. I can assist everyone else, provide control and render assistance from behind. The group round won't be as taxing for me. Furthermore, I have." He softly said a few words, which made everyone smile. Hikai too blinked, and a sly smile crept across his face. He nudged Hui Yuhao and chuckled, "Little brother, aren't you afraid of the illustrious Virtue Hall coming after you?" Hui Yuhao laughed and said, "Do you think they'll let us off even if we don't use it? The Sun Moon Empire must have some scheme in this tournament. There's one thing I'm certain of, they won't expose their scheme before the tournament ends. They'll watch their behavior up until that point." Bei Bei nodded and said, "All right, this will be the competing order in the individual elimination round. Yuhao is first, I'm second, Dong is third. If we fight until the 4th person, Sansha will compete." Shusansha appeared very depressed as he said, "Why am I near the back?" Bei Bei said, "You don't specialize in attacking. Furthermore, you are the core of our strategy in the team round. When that time comes, you'll be the one in charge of many strategies. How can we operate if you don't conserve your fighting strength? What you are going to do will be very dangerous." Shusansha nodded. "That's true. I'm always so important." Everyone turned away and acted like they didn't know him. After this, they discussed some details of the tournament. An hour before the start of the tournament, they dispersed to their rooms to rest for a couple of hours. The reason was simple. The first match of the afternoon was between the Star Luo National Academy and the Holy Ghost sect. There was no need to watch this match, since the gap between both parties' abilities was too wide. The Star Luo National Academy didn't even stand a fighting chance. The second match of the afternoon was scheduled to start 2 hours after the first match. Even if the first match ended early, some buffer time was still needed. It was actually very important to watch the Holy Ghost Church compete. However, it was more crucial for the Tang sect to win this round. If they couldn't beat the Snow Demon sect, they didn't need to bother with the rest of the tournament anymore. They had to keep themselves in their best states. Nana, Nan Chi-Chu, Jing Xian, and Ji Juechen all proceeded to the tournament venue first. Very soon, Nana returned with news that the Star Luo National Academy had only put up slight resistance for show before they announced their forfeiture. The gap in their abilities was too huge. Princess Jojo didn't want the outstanding young talents of the Star Luo Empire to perish in this tournament. As there was no way they could win, it was better to lose without suffering any casualties. The Tang sect only arrived 10 minutes before their match. Everyone found this very strange. Aren't they concerned at all? This shouldn't happen. After Hu Yuhao entered the resting area, Princess Jojo took the initiative to welcome him. We've lost. Let's see how you'll fare. Princess Jojo smiled at Hu Yuhao and Bei Bei as she greeted them. Hu Yuhao asked, "Your Highness, you seem to be in good spirits." Princess Jojo snorted and replied, "So what if I'm in good spirits? Can it decide the outcome of the tournament? It's better if the tournament ends earlier for us. We are going to return tomorrow morning. Don't forget our agreement." She sounded a little flirtatious here. Wang Donga couldn't help but raise her brows when she saw this. Hu Yuhao smiled and said, "I won't forget that. It is my honor to serve your highness." Princess Jojo bent her waist and her lips reached Hu Yuhao's ears before whispering something. After that, she straightened up and said, "All right. I wish you success in the tournament. We'll watch this match before leaving." Hu Yuhao didn't make a sound. However, he appeared very surprised. Princess Jojo's voice was very soft. Only he knew what she said. Wang Donga couldn't help but pinch Hu Yuhao as they were in the resting area, confess. "I didn't know you are actually so popular with the ladies. Even the princess is interested in you." Hu Yuhao looked at her grinning face and knew that she didn't believe Princess Jojo had anything to do with him. He couldn't help but laugh. "Yes. To be fancied by Her Highness, it shows how handsome and suave your husband is. Such thick skin." Wang Donga made a clown face at him. "What did she say to you? So mysterious." Hu Yuhao softly said something. Everyone from the Tang sect became very stunned after this. Wang Donga even said, "How did it turn out this way? We are really. Let's take this one step at a time. We should prepare to enter the waiting area." Hu Yuhao appeared very calm right now. Bei Bei patted his shoulder and said, "Little Junior, you must remember not to force anything." "I will remember. Don't worry, eldest senior." Hu Yuhao nodded. At this stage of the tournament, there wasn't any need for anyone to hide their abilities anymore. Shrek's 7 monsters finally revealed their strengths. On the other side, everyone from the Snow Demon sect had already made their way to the waiting area. Just like Hu Yuhao had expected, most of the main team members from the Snow Demon sect in the previous few rounds, including Mu Shui, didn't move at all. Most of the people who stood up were substitutes who had never competed before. The only familiar face to Hu Yuhao was the person at the back of the Snow Demon sect's team. Her hair was tied in a braid, and she appeared very amicable and gentle. She was Princess Wei Na. Yes, Mu Shui wasn't going to compete, but Wei Na was going to. This signified many things. Before this, Princess Jojo had whispered this to Hu Yuhao: "Be careful of Wei Na. She's not simple." Even though they were just 8 simple words, Wei Na's appearance seemed to support Princess Jojo's words. Hu Yuhao became more cautious. 3 out of the 4 semifinalists had been decided. Team Shrek, Team Heavenly Dragon, and Team Holy Ghost were the 3 current semifinalists. The last semifinalist would be decided after this match. As the previous 3 quarterfinal matches seemed to be very one-sided, the excitement died down, and the spectators had a lot of hope for the last quarterfinal match. Wei Na seemed to feel Hu Yuhao watching her as both parties entered the waiting area. She turned to take a look at him and smiled at him sweetly. Hu Yuhao nodded at her. It was a form of greeting. No matter the result, or whether the Snow Demon sect was a front for the Body sect, he knew that they weren't enemies. If the Body sect snuck into the Heavenly Soul Empire, it was beneficial for them in their resistance against the Sun-Moon Empire. The enemy of one's enemy was one's friend. Moreover, the Heavenly Soul Empire was the Tang sect's biggest client. Xingzhong furrowed his brow when he saw the Tang sect. Apart from Wang Chua, the Tang sect had given him the greatest headaches in all the rounds that he refereed. The Tang sect's members didn't follow the rules, and were very difficult to deal with. His attention was first caught by Wang Donga, and he immediately became more focused. Quarterfinal to the semifinal. This is the last quarterfinal match. Snow Demon sect versus the Tang sect. Both parties, please send your first members up for the individual elimination round, the unbreakable Dolor shouted. A tall young man stood up on the Snow Demon sect's side. He took a step forward and ascended the stage. At the same time, he looked over at the Tang sect. After that, he saw Wang Donga standing up. Others might underestimate the Tang sect, but the Snow Demon sect wouldn't. That was because the Snow Demon sect had Mu Shui and Wei Na, who were both quite familiar with Hu Yuhao and Wang Donga. They had already treated the Tang sect as their opponent, and thus they had been monitoring the Tang sect's fights. In this tournament, there weren't many people who had cultivations that were 6 or more rings. Among them, Wang Donga was one of the most outstanding ones. It wasn't just because she looked like Wang Chua's sister, but more importantly, it was because of her great abilities. Against the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, Wang Donga had fully demonstrated her abilities and cultivation. She had left a deep impression in many people's minds. Furthermore, it wasn't a secret anymore that Wang Donga and Hu Yuhao had twin martial souls. After all, they had accomplished great things in the previous tournament. As a result, the young man from the Snow Demon sect turned serious when he saw her standing up. The two most monitored members of the Tang sect were Wang Donga and Xu Sanxia. He Kaitu came in third. He Kaitu was a Class 6 Soul Engineer and 6-ringed Soul Emperor. He had left a deep impression in everyone's minds during the team round against the Clear Jade sect. His Eye of Fear was the nightmare of his opponents. Hu Yuhao was the 4th most monitored in the Tang sect. After all, he was stuck as a Soul King. In everyone's eyes, a Soul King and Soul Emperor were very vastly different. Just as the young man was shuddering in his heart, he was suddenly stunned. That was because Wang Donga didn't ascend the stage directly. She walked behind Hu Yuhao's wheelchair, and pushed his wheelchair towards the stage. Wasn't Wang Donga going to compete first? Wasn't she going to imitate her elder sister's fighting style? Everyone was baffled. After that, they saw Wang Donga pushing Hu Yuhao's wheelchair before she brought him up on the stage. She only brought him up to the edge of the stage before jumping off and returning to the waiting area. Hu Yuhao used his right hand to push the wheels of his own wheelchair forward. He slowly proceeded towards the center of the stage. The first person isn't Wang Donga, but Hu Yuhao. Although Hu Yuhao had performed well in the earlier rounds of the tournament, and even defeated 7 people in one shot, he only rarely appeared as the tournament progressed. His performances weren't too exciting. Most of the time, it was his teammates that performed well. It's only him. The young man from the Snow Demon sect looked relieved. After all, Hu Yuhao was only a Soul King. In terms of individual abilities, Hu Yuhao was at most the 4th strongest in the Tang sect. In addition, Hu Yuhao was a control-type Soul Master, and he was even crippled. He wasn't much of a threat. Wei Na also furrowed her brow in the waiting area. She didn't understand why the Tang sect would send Hu Yuhao up first. From their looks earlier, they must have had guessed something. Wasn't a control-type Soul Master like Hu Yuhao supposed to be reserved for the team round? She also revealed a pensive look as she thought about that. As she recalled how sly Hu Yuhao was during their negotiation earlier, Wei Na couldn't help but develop an ominous feeling. On the stage, both parties quickly reached the center. They waited on opposing sides of Xingzhong. Both parties, please report your names, Xingzhong said formally. Tang sect, Hu Yuhao. Snow Demon sect, Wang Yangfeng. Wang Yangfeng was more than 190 centimeters tall. His body was big and burly. The white attire that he wore was very tight. He had short hair, and his eyes were filled with energy. Although he wasn't very handsome, he gave off a very mature feeling. His sharp eyes seemed able to penetrate a person's heart. Although they hadn't started competing yet, Hu Yuhao could sense a dominant aura from his body. Xingzhong looked at both parties and said, "Step back and prepare for the start of the fight." Let me reiterate, Try not to go too hard on your opponent. When I judge that either of you can't handle it anymore, I will end this fight. Although only Hu Yuhao's right arm could move, he was very deft as he controlled his wheelchair. He rolled his wheelchair back to his side of the stage. Wang Yangfeng didn't say anything either. He only nodded at Hu Yuhao before turning to the other side of the stage. Very soon, both parties got into their respective positions. They turned around and faced each other. Xingzhong raised his hand up high and shouted, "Begin." Wang Yangfeng immediately moved. His toes pushed off as he burst towards Hu Yuhao. He was very quick, but wasn't as violent as Wang Qiu'er. However, he seemed illusory throughout the entire process. It seemed as if he was bursting forward, but Hu Yuhao couldn't lock onto him, even with his spiritual detection. Wang Yangfeng was moving from side to side at an extremely high speed. Hu Yuhao immediately made his judgment. Both parties unleashed their martial souls at almost the same time. Hu Yuhao had 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 1 black soul ring. Everyone from the Tang sect knew he was using his imitation now. Apart from Wang Donga, no one really knew the colors of Hu Yuhao's soul rings. 6 soul rings rose from Wang Yanfeng's feet. There were 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 2 black soul rings. His aura also grew stronger and stronger. Hu Yuhao didn't move a single centimeter, remaining in his position. His right hand pointed forward, and a petite figure shot out from his brow. She grew in size as she moved, and turned into the appearance of a little girl, drifting 2 meters in front of Hu Yuhao. It was the Snow Lady. Once the little Snow Lady appeared, the temperature around Hu Yuhao quickly fell. Wang Yangfeng seemed to slow down as he burst forward. He had evidently unleashed his martial soul, but nothing could be seen. What was his martial soul? If not for the fact that Hu Yuhao had formulated his guess before the fight even started, he would have been in a spot right now. Wang Yangfeng was less than 30 meters from the Snow Lady right now. At this point, he suddenly shouted and jumped forward. His legs landed steadily on the ground, and he clenched his fists while raising his hands up. After that, he hammered his fists down. He was still 30 meters from Hu Yuhao and the Snow Lady right now, so it wasn't possible for his fists to strike them. He was hammering the ground. A bronze-green glow spread from his fists. As his fists pounded the ground, there wasn't any sound at all. However, a wave of green gas swept towards Hu Yuhao and the Snow Lady. It was a very strong shockwave. Hu Yuhao was in awe. His opponent's attack wasn't unleashed using pure strength and soul power. It involved some level of technique and strength control. It was a combination of strength and technique. He was indeed a talent from the body sect. Were his fists his martial soul? In the younger generation of the body sect, Wang Yangfeng should be one of the best. Hu Yuhao squinted as he faced the green gust of gas. The Snow Lady didn't resist it directly. On the contrary, her petite figure drifted back and landed on Hu Yuhao's shoulder. Hu Yuhao raised his only movable hand. A strong golden glow lit up on his palm. Following this, a golden figure appeared from his body. It wasn't quick, but it appeared just before the green gust of gas reached him. The wave of gas struck the figure. The figure seemed to chop it down the middle, and the 2 halves struck the protective barriers around the stage. A huge glow was instantly created. Neither parties used any soul skills in their first confrontation. The rest of their team members in the waiting area were in awe, especially the Snow Demon sect. Their team members were stunned. Hu Yuhao didn't use his ability to summon things, but used his own soul power to tackle Wang Yangfeng. In addition, he didn't seem to have expended much energy as he overcame Wang Yanfeng's attack. They were all shocked by this level of skill. Hu Yuhao didn't retract his palm. He clenched it into a fist and pushed it forward. Suddenly, a golden force was unleashed from his fist towards Wang Yangfeng. It was a pure battle of soul power. There weren't any soul skills involved. He's actually able to combine his spiritual and soul power. Whose fighting skill did he inherit? Wei Na muttered to herself. Wang Yangfeng was equally stunned. When they had researched Hu Yuhao's abilities earlier, they were completely different. Was this even possible for a control-type soul master? Isn't this a fighting method of our body sect? One of the most important principles that the body sect had was that its disciples should never use their soul skills lightly, because their opponents would become familiar with one's soul skills after each use. They should only be used at the most critical moments in order to achieve a decisive effect. Because of this, the body sect was considered one of the best in terms of their research into fighting techniques. In this aspect, even Shrek Academy couldn't compare to them. It was also one of the reasons why the body sect was so strong. However, Hu Yuhao was using a fighting technique now. From how he resisted Wang Yanfeng's attack earlier, it showed that he wasn't ordinary either. His ability to counterattack, in such a short period of time, showed that he was indeed very strong. While Wang Yanfeng was awed, he didn't slow down. He took a step forward with his right foot and allowed his aura to rise. At the same time, he pounded his fists down again, and a blinding bronze-green glow was unleashed towards the force that Hu Yuhao had shot at him. Bang! An explosive ring reverberated out. The golden and green glows dispersed. Hu Yuhao didn't move from where he was sitting in his wheelchair. Wang Yanfeng looked backward and retreated one step. At this point, the expressions of everyone from the Snow Demon sect, or rather the body sect, couldn't help but change. 2 fists against a single fist. Hu Yuhao exerted a force from a mid-range distance, while Wang Yanfeng used his body to defend against it, but Wang Yanfeng was the one who suffered. This signified that Wang Yanfeng was inferior to Hu Yuhao in terms of his cultivation. How was this possible? He was one of the strongest from the body sect, and was even a soul emperor. On the other hand, Hu Yuhao was only a soul king. Such a result left those with some insider information feeling incredulous. Wang Yanfeng's senses were very acute. When he steadied himself, he burst towards Hu Yuhao without any hesitation. He opened his arms, and his first soul ring finally lit up. His arms grew to 3 times their original size. He attacked Hu Yuhao's head as he began to glow with an intense bronze-green light. The body sect was very skillful at fighting techniques, because of their martial souls. As their bodies were part of their martial souls, their soul skills usually enhanced a certain part of their body. Without outstanding fighting techniques, it was impossible for them to tap into their advantage to the fullest. Hu Yuhao's expression didn't change, but his eyes turned completely golden. With his spiritual detection, he could clearly sense the circulation and undulations of his opponent's soul power, as well as his strengths and weaknesses. In Wang Yanfeng's eyes, the young man in the wheelchair suddenly shot out a strong glow from his eyes before taking in a deep breath. Wang Yanfeng felt as if that simple inhalation had sucked away all the air around him. Not only did this not stop his advance, but the vacuum even drew him ahead faster and faster. This change might be slight, but the change in tempo left Wang Yanfeng in a tight spot. His aura dropped significantly. Hu Yuhao raised his right hand at the same time as he inhaled. He faced his palm towards himself before flipping it upward. His hand let out an intense golden light. As Yuhao flipped his palm over, Wang Yanfeng felt a huge storm coming. When Hu Yuhao unleashed his palm, it felt as if the weather had changed and a sovereign was descending. Wang Yanfeng's hands were enhanced by his soul rings. In everyone's opinion, he should have struck Hu Yuhao first. However, Wang Yanfeng's body stopped in the air when Hu Yuhao unleashed his palm. He snapped his double palms back, before striking out against Hu Yuhao's palm. Boom! 3 palms intersected, and a huge flash of light went off, followed by the crash of the impact. The protective barriers around the stage started to ripple. Hu Yuhao's wheelchair slid backward, and he knocked into the protective barrier behind him before he stopped. But Wang Yanfeng had already been struck backward. He took 3 steps back, before he managed to steady himself, each step slamming loudly onto the metal plates of the arena stage. His upper body trembled slightly, and his face started to flush. Everyone could tell that Hu Yuhao had gained the upper hand in this clash. If not for the fact that he couldn't move his legs, his advantage might have been even greater. It was a pure clash of soul power. There weren't any flowery tricks. It was a battle of their abilities. Those who had once lost to Hu Yuhao and were unconvinced would immediately understand that they deserved to lose if they saw this clash between Hu Yuhao and Wang Yanfeng. Both parties were forced back. However, this was only the curtain raiser. When Hu Yuhao clashed with Wang Yanfeng, the Snow Lady was already sitting on his shoulder. Right now, she burst out like a bolt of lightning. She flashed out and appeared above Wang Yanfeng's head. She flipped around in the air and struck her palm toward his forehead. At the same time, Hu Yuhao's golden eyes suddenly turned purplish gold. 2 streaks of purplish gold light shot out. Wang Yanfeng only saw a patch of purplish gold light in front of him. Following this, his very soul seemed to have been struck, and everything turned white. However, his cultivation was still very strong. He had earned his soul emperor cultivation through his own efforts. Furthermore, his spiritual power was greater than most ordinary soul masters, since the body sect was very skilled in the research of fighting techniques. While Hui Yuhao's spiritual shock left him in great pain, he reacted instinctively when he realized something was wrong. He raised his right arm and thrust his left arm forward, causing an intense golden light to surge from his body. It was actually an invincible barrier. The Snow Lady's palm smacked the invincible barrier and was deflected away. However, the barrier turned icy blue instantly, and the temperature around it also fell significantly. While the Snow Lady's palm seemed very soft and gentle, it was actually even stronger than Hui Yuhao's palm strike earlier. Hui Yuhao furrowed his brow. The body sect uses soul tools too. Didn't teacher mention that they were very rigid in this aspect? It seems like they are also keeping up. Without the invincible barrier, his spiritual shock and the Snow Lady's snowless glacier would have given him the absolute advantage even if Wang Yangfeng wasn't immediately defeated. However, the barrier helped Wang Yangfeng avert this crisis. Although Hui Yuhao was startled by his opponent's invincible barrier, he didn't stop his attack. Even with the invincible barrier, Wang Yangfeng was still in a trance after being hit by the spiritual shock. He was like a practice target as he stood in place. The barrier could protect him from absolute harm. However, his soul power would be greatly depleted if the invincible barrier was struck repeatedly. Hui Yuhao raised his right hand, and a dark golden projection slashed down like a huge heavenly axe. When the 5 streaks of light appeared, all the spectators felt a chill down their spines. Part 1 end here.